Hello everyone, I'm here with Dr. Navid. He's a good friend of mine. We do
Hi.
some business together and we're both Iranian. And we hope one day Iran will be freed. We are both activists for the freedom of Iran from the Islamic Republic. Do you want to give a quick introduction
Of
about yourself?
course, yeah. Thank you so much for hosting me here, Yunus. We are witnessing a great change in the course of history, especially in the past week.
Mhm.
A lot of things have changed, and it was about time that we do release a podcast to discuss the ins and outs of what's happening, where things are going, short term, medium range, and long term on the affairs of the world and the region as well, particularly Middle East. And during the past week, I've received plenty of messages on social media, different friends, business associates, and everybody is very concerned and worried about what's happening in Iran.
And we are not. We are actually happy.
Exactly. So that's the case. So the reason of creating this podcast and video is to actually enlighten the majority of the public on the fact that
Mhm.
us as Iranians, people with Iranian heritage or people who have links to Iran, we are actually very glad that this is happening. And that's the case for around 90% of the Iranians in the diaspora and also within Iran, because we need to establish the fact that at the moment, the current state of affairs is not Israel showing aggression towards the nation of Iran or the people of Iran or the sovereignty of the country. They are in direct fight with the Islamic Republic. And that's something that we need to differentiate from the get go. The nation of Iran, the people of Iran, or Iran in general is not associated with the Islamic Republic. And
Mhm.
maybe you'd like to open that slightly a little bit as well, because the current regime that's governing Iran is claiming themselves as Islamic Republic of Iran,
Yeah.
but in fact is not what's written on the tin. They're nor Islamic, not Republic, and in fact not Iranian, because the majority are even born not in Iran and overseas. So maybe you'd like to open that a
Yeah,
little bit.
exactly. So I mentioned this on the Visegrad interview. I said that you can't have an Islamic Republic because Islamic means the law of Allah and the law of Sharia, and Republic means the law of the people. So it's just a juxtaposition. It's a contradiction of terms. You cannot have an Islamic Republic. But also, I think in the West, we have a lot of sort of naive virtue signaling people that they think they know better than us from people that were actually born in Iran and have experienced what it's like to live under the Islamic Republic. And as you said, I see a lot of Westerners or people from in the region say, "Oh, we are so sorry. We don't like the fact that your country is being bombed." And majority of Iranians are actually celebrating. There are different groups. I'm not going to pretend here that every single person is happy, but I would say about 70 to 80% of Iranians are actually happy that this is happening. And the reason why they're happy is because we've tried many times to overthrow this regime. From the beginning, from the get-go, as soon as the revolution happened after a year, there were women protesting the Islamic Republic because they didn't want to wear the headscarf. And also, we had the Mahsa Amini movement and the Green movement and many other movements. The people tried many times to overthrow this regime, but they failed. And the reason why they failed is because the Islamic Republic has taken Iranians hostage. They killed their own people. They imprisoned their own people over minor crimes. We cannot drink alcohol. We cannot party. You cannot even have a dog. Women don't have basic rights. We don't have freedom of speech. We don't have anything. So now Iranians have reached a point that the international community is helping them. And we should celebrate that because we couldn't do it by ourselves. So I find it quite difficult to understand that why some Iranians, even though they are against the Islamic Republic, they don't celebrate these things. I understand that there are a lot of people that are maybe scared because they live in Tehran, they don't want to be bombed. But as I said before, I don't think Israel wants to indiscriminately bomb Iranians. They don't even want to indiscriminately bomb Hamas and Hezbollah,
Yeah,
but they
exactly.
live within civilians. So there's a very big distinction to make here. And also, there's this big lie about Zionism and about, how Israel is the evil empire and they are bad. I think the biggest evil in the world is Islamic extremism and theocracies and totalitarianism. So Zionism, what does Zionism even mean? Zionism means Israel should have a state. That's all it means. But then people think they're educated and they believe these conspiracy theories that, oh, the Jews are so bad and they control the flow of money and, they enjoy killing Palestinian babies. It's all a lie. And,
Yeah.
what's happening in Palestine is happening in Iran. Hamas has taken Palestinians hostage and the Islamic Republic has taking Iranians hostage.
Very, very nice point that you touched on.
Yeah,
Actually, last week I was at a rooftop restaurant and there was a girl who was the
yeah,
waitress, and I asked her where's she from, and she said Palestine.
yeah.
And a friend of mine asked her, said, how are you keeping up with everything that's happening? And she said, everything is fine. We are living our lives. They were living in the West Bank. And she said, all the troubles that are happening in Gaza because of the troubles that the Iranian supported, militia is causing there. And she said that we're fine. I'm traveling to Palestine, and she was proud of being Palestinian. She said, I'm flying to Palestine to celebrate a wedding. We are very cool with the Israelis. We don't have any issues. The only time that we have issues is when a missile just hits an area specifically by mistake, or if there is a malfunction in one of the artilleries, and some place gets hit by the missiles or military. And she said everything is fine, but without really going further into the kind of Israel-Palestine situation, let's focus back on Iran. And again, it's a very nice point that you touched, that Iran's been through a series of events.
Yeah.
And as Winston Churchill says, in order to be able to look further into the future, you need to be able to look far in the back. As much as you can look far in the back, you could look into the future. And something we should know is that Iran, the current Islamic Republic, the regime that's currently installed in Iran and is governing the country of Iran and the people of Iran, is a byproduct of a hijacked revolution. So a series of events happened. There was a revolution that happened, and people overthrew the king of Iran at the time, the former king, King Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, Mohammad Reza Shah. And this Islamic regime kind of took over. And during this 47 plus years, people have been showing signs of opposition. They've been chanting for democracy on the streets, and they've been silenced every time in a different way. As you mentioned early on, the women's movement with against the rules for hijab and isolation of women in Iran for the past half a century nearly. Then there was the Iran-Iraq war that had a lot of consequences. A lot of youth were sent. A lot of underage soldiers were sent to the war.
And can I just quickly touch on points on this, because I think it's a very important point to make. The Iran-Iraq war actually strengthened the Islamic Republic. And as Khomeini said, the war is a blessing for the Islamic Republic, because he knew the more Iranians died in that war, the more they'll be invested in the Islamic Republic, because they'll say that, oh, we gave our children's blood for this regime. But now after 46 years, even those people that had children or had uncles or fathers that went to the war and died are the ones now turning against the Islamic Republic. And we shouldn't forget something. Look, we are glad that the international community is helping us right now. We're glad Israel is helping us. We're glad hopefully USA is helping us. But we have to also be honest about how this revolution happened. And it was a joint effort by the Jews, or Israel, and America, and the British and the French. Because the Shah came out and said, the Jews have too much power, maybe in media or something. And then after that, and then he increased the price of oil. I know mistakes were made. So I think strategically, President Carter made a huge strategic mistake, and the world is paying for it now. But I think they come to this realization that made a huge mistake, and Iran will be a gold mine, will be an absolute biggest opportunity, economic opportunity in the world if it's free. It's not in the interest of anyone anymore for Islamic Republic of Iran to exist. Why? The Gulf states don't want them, because Saudi, Mohammed bin Salman, called Khamenei Hitler. Emiratis, that don't like them, because Iran threatened to nuke Dubai if the war escalates. The Qataris don't even like them anymore. The Jordanians don't like the majority of the missiles that are struck towards Israel are intercepted by Jordan or Saudi. The only countries that probably want them is probably Russia and China, in my opinion. Mostly Russia. But the international community as a whole has realized that the Islamic Republic is not in their world's interest. And the only reason why Russia likes them is because they can use it as Putin can use the Islamic Republic as a card in his hand. He doesn't even like them, to be honest, but he can always use them as leverage against the United States, and so can the Chinese. But what's happening right now, I think the whole world is united against the Islamic Republic, other than the virtue signaling people in the West that don't seem to understand our experience. The whole world is united against them. So our next strategic moves is to be able to overthrow the Islamic Republic, have Iran join the international economy, and also that will isolate Russia and China. And I think this battle is much further than Iran. It's extremely geopolitical, it's extremely global, and it's the world order changing. Because if Iran flips, then it will also put China on the back foot. It will put Russia on the back foot. However, if the Islamic Republic prevails, it puts Europe and America and the Western world and the free world
It's
on the back
interesting
foot.
that you brought up the. It's
Yeah.
interesting that
And
you
also
brought
the
up
Saudi states. Yeah.
that the neighboring countries in Iran around the Persian Gulf. Literally, what we're witnessing is that Middle East is being restructured. All these countries are becoming something like the European Union.
Yeah.
Recently, there's been talks about removing the visa entry for the Six Nations. So UAE, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and Qatar and Kuwait are doing a joint effort to become an area of economic prosperity and growth. And I believe the future of Middle East, Iran is actually a major player. At the moment, the reason that this prosperity didn't happen and a lot of terrorism was occurring and the region was in very big conflict was because of the Islamic Republic. And that was the biggest bottleneck. So we are actually happy and we're glad that a country like Israel has taken charge to guarantee the safety and prosperity of the future of Middle East itself and all the global community, because that's been a major problem. The Islamic regime in Iran have been continuously threatening the world that they're going to, interfere with the oil supplies. They're going to, cause troubles. The nuclear deals that were signed and the nuclear concept, it was just an excuse to kind of, as a winning card, to keep threatening the West, to keep threatening the security and safety of region, because they have had half a century nearly to fix the country, have a prosperous economy, and be friends with their neighbors. But they've just done the opposite. And now is the chance, now is the time where a country like Israel has taken charge. And I believe further down the road, US is also, there's talks that US is going to also have a joint effort in dealing with them. In not any shape or form, this is an invasion. So people who are sending condolences messages or they're upset and sad that's happening, we are actually very happy. The only people who are sad about this is the supporters of Islamic Republic, the very 10% minority who are not having the best interests of the region and the people of Iran in hand. And they've been the minority since the beginning, but with the power of censorship and brutality, they've been suppressing,
Exactly. So I just wanted to put into context for the audience that if you don't know, the internet is shut down in Iran now for the last 48 hours, I think. And, I have some distant family members in Iran and they are scared. They are saying that we are scared that the Islamic Republic will start killing its own civilians and then blame Israel for it, And funnily enough, it's Israel that's looking after the Iranian civilians more than the Islamic Republic, because Israelis actually send texts or send online things to people.
Announcements that we're hitting this specific area.
Yeah, get out now. But the Islamic Republic is shutting down that connection road. Can you imagine? So if they get sick, but also the same thing goes for Hamas and Gaza, where Israel says we're going to strike a specific building, get out, and then Hamas holds everyone hostage. So this idea that Israel is the enemy or America is the enemy, and I want to.
They're the liberators, to be honest.
They are the
liberating the people of Iran.
But also, I was watching Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens the other day, and I call these people part of the woke right, because they're saying, oh, we don't want another war in the Middle East and Trump is wrong. By the way, I really like Trump because I think he's got great instincts. He doesn't listen to anyone and usually his instincts are right. Nobody wants a full-scale war with Iran. I don't want a single American soldier or Israeli soldier on Iranian soil. What we need is strategic precision strikes of IRGC members, nuclear sites and military sites. And then we just need international support and for people to cause a revolution. So majority of Iranians, I was having this debate with someone from Pakistan today that sent me a message saying, oh, we're so upset. I was like, no, I'm not upset. Don't be upset on my behalf. I'm actually very happy. So unfortunately, I think the fake news media such as BBC and CNN and MSNBC, they have made this narrative that Israel is the oppressor and Israel is the one that's at least Israel is one of the most advanced countries in the world in terms of technology. They have better things to do than to go and bomb Gaza. They have better things to do than go and bomb Iran.
They're doing this because their security is
threatened. They're doing security tests, but they're doing a world a favor. Yeah. Netanyahu will go down as one of the most consequential leaders of the 21st century, the same way as Churchill was. But also Churchill was disliked during World War II. Exactly. And that's why he wasn't re-elected. Can you imagine? You win World War II, and in the next election you lose. And then afterwards they realized what allegedly was. And I think it's going to be the same case for
Between
Netanyahu.
parentheses, I need to add the fact that,
Yep.
you know, since the beginning of the Islamic Republic, they've been chanting death to America. They've been chanting death to Israel, down with America, down with Israel. They've been making every possible effort to put this into and brainwash, you know, the youth,
Yep.
including, you know, the population, even to date, that, you know, Israel is the main enemy, and they've been waging war against Israel. They've been talking, you know, continuously in different timelines in the past, that they want to get rid of this state. They don't recognize it as a legitimate state, and they've been continuously threatening it. And when you're threatening a country, I mean, I don't recall at any given point Israel threatening the security and safety of Iran or Iranians. They've been
They want to eradicate Iran.
They're currently bombing the mafia regime in Iran and their points of interest and their points of strength. But they've never threatened the people of Iran. The message has been always the message of peace, prosperity, friendship. And talking about Netanyahu, he's basically returning the favor. You know, Cyrus the Great liberated the Jews, you know, who were enslaved in Babylon.
Yeah.
This is a course of history. This is a cycle that's closing, and the favor is being repaid back. And that's what we want the majority of the public to know. That Israel and US are the liberators of the people of Iran. Right now, they are not. Their main area of concern is not a regime change. What they're doing is they're basically targeting the strength parts of this regime change. Americans and Israelis' best interest is for the people of Iran to take hold of their own destiny and come to the streets and initiate a regime change and bring a democratic government in place where they could have a, you know, brighter future and play a bigger role in Middle East. However, the problem right now is that Iran is not on a direct full-scale war. So if they get to the streets, they'll already be considered, you know, traitors, and there'll be security, you know, they'll be caught and tortured and, you know, potentially executed because it's considered, you
It's
know,
happened many times
against Islamic Republic's interest, but they put it in a frame of, you know, against national interest, but it's not against national interest. So the people are waiting for the right moment to find out that they could get onto the streets and move it. And I see this pendulum effect. So basically, the part that I wanted to touch, talking about history of Iran, is that in previous times, there's been an effect and after effect. So this pendulum has been in swing. And the very, very recent one was the Masa movement, where there was a big movement in Iran and there was a bigger movement outside Iran with the Iranian diaspora. Have in mind that there's 90 million people in Iran and about 10 million, you know, Iranians in the Iranian diaspora overseas. And there was this movement where they had a movement in Iran and the pendulum swinged back to the outside, and people, Iranians outside, you know, did show the support. And now, right now, what we're having is the pendulum support of Israel and US. And again, what we should be expecting in return is the movement of people in Iran, the movement of people outside Iran, until there's enough momentum for the regime that's currently in power to collapse, because they've proven, you know, not worthy and not useful over the years. They've had so much opportunities to sign a deals, be peaceful, be democratic, give the power to people, do not, you know, oppress their opinions and oppress their way of living. I mean, the Masa Amini movement, you know, the woman life freedom movement, was all about a girl being stopped by fashion police because of her hijab that was not, you know, in line with their liking. I mean, to anybody abroad, overseas, when you're talking about fashion police, that they call it AKA morality police, that there is a police on the streets that's telling you what you should wear or not, they'll be laughing at you and they'll be like, is this for real? So what's happening is that this regime has proven unworthy of its people. Israel and US are in full support of Iranian people. They're spreading peace in the Middle East by bombing and getting rid of the Islamic regime that's in power. And I think long run down the road, we're seeing a free liberated Iran, where I believe the key main figure is His Royal Highness, you know, Prince Reza Pahlavi, who's in US, and he's currently the main figure where everybody's looking forward for his return back to Iran to make a change. I believe things are going to be going to a direction where we'll have a transitional government past this current regime, and people of Iran are going to get hold of their own destiny and, you know, start making history. So maybe you'd like to also touch on that a little bit, on, you know, what do you think is going to happen? So past this regime, you know, being gone.
Yeah, well, so in my opinion, I think we need a transitional government, obviously, because to stabilize everything. Because you cannot have so we need Shah Reza Pahlavi, but also we need around him many competent people. And believe me, there is a lot of Iranians, competent, smart, educated, wealthy Iranians in the world that can help Shah Reza Pahlavi in many aspects. So we need a transitional government in which he's the figurehead. And then after 2 or 3 years, or 1 or 2 years, depending how long it takes for the dust to settle, we're going to have a referendum. And then in that referendum, the people will decide whether they want a monarchy, or whether they want a federal or republic state, or whether they want a parliamentary state. What they want, they will decide. And I think we should go in that direction. In my opinion, I think we already had a monarchy in Iran, and we also had the Islamic Republic. I think the best system, in my opinion, in general in the world, is a system like in America, a republic, in which you have other, federal states, and we need 3 branches of government. I think that way you split the power into 3 branches, and none of the branches can then get corrupted.
Overrun by the
yeah, exactly. So maybe House of Representatives, the Senate, and the judiciary and presidency. So that's what I think. I mean, if there was an option, and then we would have a president, maybe 2-term president or 3-term presidents. Those are the small prints we can decide. But that's way down the road. On what you were saying on Israel and Persia, the Persians and the Jews, they have a very long-standing friendship, much older than Islam, by the way, 2,500 years. And, they say everything comes in full circle. And I truly believe we live in biblical times right now. These are biblical times. The world is changing in all aspects, not just in geopolitics, but also with AI. Everything is changing. In the next 4 years, the world will be unrecognizable from what it is now. So now Persians helped the Jewish people, liberated the Jewish people. Now the Jews are helping the Persians. So I think, a lot of my friends are Jewish. And I didn't even know they were Jewish before until after October 7th. Oh, he's Jewish. And then, I don't know, for some reason, I just got along with him. So I think, I'm not a religious person. I believe in God. But I think these stories in the Bible, they're all metaphoric truths. And I think we are living in a very metaphoric time, in which, these times in the 2020s, it will go down in history as a very consequential decade. And lastly, I was going to say something about, you mentioned something about something to do with America and Israel liberating Iranians.
Yeah.
And it was, I truly believe that. I think that this idea that, okay, this is what I was going to say. America made a huge mistake going to war with Iraq. Yeah. America made a huge mistake going to war with Afghanistan. Why? Because, first of all, these countries, you cannot push democracy on people. You cannot go and invade countries and force your way of life on them, right? They didn't need to invade Afghanistan. They could have just carpet bombed Al-Qaeda bases and just, found bin Laden and killed him. There was no need to invade Afghanistan. There was even less a need to invade Iraq. Why? Because Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with 9/11. And I think the only reason George W. Bush went to Iraq was because he had a personal feud with Saddam Hussein, and so did his father.
To finish what his father
Yeah,
started,
exactly.
in some people's
opinions.
So
I think America really missed the mark. They invaded 2 wrong countries, the one in the east of Iran and one in the west of Iran, right? They should have focused on the one in the middle, because that one in the middle is the one that's causing all the instability. And as I said before, I do not want one soldier. We just want Islamic Republic of Iran gone. And, sometimes I'm watching Khamenei, during the Friday prayers or during one of his speeches. And I'm thinking, what's stopping the Americans or the Israelis? Just fly a drone in there, blow all of them up. Yeah. I know it might sound silly.
We're not trying to instigate wireless here, but what I'm trying to touch on here is because you mentioned US and Iran, and something that's been a big shortfall is that US never saw this coming, and US always considered Iran not becoming as strong and as troublesome as it is now for the region.
But this is what I was going to say, because I think a lot of people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson and other people part of the woke right or the woke left, they are very anti-war. And I agree with them. I agree. The Iraq war was stupid, and so was the Afghanistan war. America made a huge mistake, and they think that somehow going to Iran is going to be the same sort of consequences. You're going to go spend trillions of dollars, and at the end of it, you're going to replace Taliban with Taliban. The big difference with Persians is that they don't even want Islam anymore. They're very open-minded people. The Iraqis want Islam. The Syrians want Islam. The Afghanistanis want Islam. They actually, most of them, they agree with Taliban, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But Persians are not the same. Majority of the Persian people you meet are very open-minded. They're not very religious. They are, as I said before on my interview with Visegrad, our original religion was rationalism, even though I'm not religious. We're not even Muslim. So I think majority of Iranians don't actually want the Islamic Republic.
Yeah, but there's a 10%
10,
minority
10.
that's supporting, and there's
Yeah.
a 90% opposition. And again, the other issue is that what makes the Iran case different, to any other countries, like Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, is the fact that the deal that's been made is not about Iran's resources, is not about Iran's sovereignty. Iran has always pushed and maintained its sovereignty. Yeah, it's always pushed and maintained ownership of its resources. And a scenario where a foreign entity would come and bomb a country and invade it to get, cheaper resources or to, have military bases is off the table for Iran, because the deals that have been made is for the people of Iran to liberate Iran from the current regime so that Iran could be a prosperous country in the future. That because we've asked a lot of questions from audience, audience have been answering back, to us about, what their concerns are about the future of Iran and future of, Middle East. And in particular, we had a few questions about what could the Israelis and Iranians do now in order to, to vouch for, as the question said, to, guarantee a prosperous, Middle East in the future. I think the answer is to not to fall victim to the social media and the posts that are condemning Israel's attack on Iran, and to be in full support of what's happening until the moment of liberation of people of Iran,
Yeah.
and not to fall victim to the propaganda of other countries who might have interest in Iran staying in power, countries like Russia, China, or Turkey, whose main interest is to Iran, the current regime of Iran, to be in place, because now they're supporting, even Pakistan, it's been sending, some help to the Iranian, not to the Iranian, to the Islamic Republic
Although
regime.
I heard they just blocked their border with Pakistan because the Pakistani military general was in the White House, and I think Trump said to him, "If you help Iran,"
because it's their interest. They always want, those countries. I mean, particularly, Turkey's interest is, for the IMEC corridor, which is the India Middle East corridor, which facilitates exports towards Europe from China, and India as well. To be not a safe zone, so they could do their own corridor towards the north through the Caspian Sea, Azerbaijan, and Turkey. Or there's other players who are really interested in keeping the status quo, where there's a government that's very oppressive of its people. And the government in Iran, the current Islamic Republic, has also, quote unquote, realized this. And now they're sending some video messages from underground bunkers saying, dear people of Iran, or there's a lot of nationalistic elements, being broadcasted from the Iranian TV.
Yeah.
So for this half a century, they've been really prioritizing Islam over being Iranian.
And all of a sudden,
they've been saying that, you should be first, sacrificing your interest for Islamic Republic and then for being an Iranian. But right now, all of a sudden, the rhetorics have changed, the tables have turned, and now they're saying, "Oh, dear people of Iran, dear brave people of Iran, you've never been invaded." And they're trying, within Iran, they're trying to broadcast this as an invasion of a foreign entity. But by no means this is an invasion. This is a facilitation of the liberation of people of Iran. So this is something that you need to know. What the people of Iran can do is to broadcast this message that the Islamic Republic has been keeping its people hostage for the past half a century. Israel is the liberation force. Israel is doing what it's supposed to do. Israel is defending its security and safety of its citizens that have been threatened for the past half a century. And the Israeli people should, I do understand, I've been speaking with a lot of people from Israel. A lot of them are not really in favor of Netanyahu. They don't like him. They don't like his policy. But what Netanyahu is doing is basically doing this for the greater good. What Trump is doing this for in the US, like to all our friends in America, Jewish, Israeli, or American, the message is clear. You are not getting into another Iraq or Afghanistan. You're helping a brutal regime to fall, to collapse, a democratic government to take place in a big country like Iran, where it's a major player in the Middle East, to guarantee the safety and security of the Middle East. And we wouldn't, there's a lot of people who are really upset as well. They're like, okay, Israel is attacking military, infrastructure in Iran. Iran is not going to be a powerful, military in the future. But do you really need a powerful military in the future in the Middle East? Because this is the bigger plan. So it's an Arabic NATO plan where all the Arabic countries have enough, defense budgets and they have enough military infrastructure. They don't need a single country to be the Middle East police, as Iran used to be during the Shah's time.
Exactly.
They want to decentralize this power so
Yeah.
that everybody could live in peace without somebody having power of other people, and they could live in peace. No one could threaten the other country. Saudi cannot threaten Iran. Iran cannot threaten Saudi, or vice versa. What we had, the disaster that happened between Iran and Iraq, doesn't take place. So that's there to guarantee. So to all those people who are worried, to all those Iranian friends who are saying, "Oh, I'm really sad that a foreign entity is attacking my country," they're not attacking your country. They're not attacking your interests. They're not attacking the people of Iran. They are friends with people of Iran. What they're doing is they're liberating the people of Iran. So our friends in US, our friends in the Jewish community, the Israelis, the Iranians, what you need to do is you need to be able to spread this message of peace, this message of hope, this message that Middle East is going to be a safer place without the current regime that's running and governing Iran, which is on the brink of collapse, by the way. I mean, how do you foresee the coming week?
Well, I think we live in very critical times in the next 2 weeks to a month. I think the next 2 weeks to a month are very decisive times. The regime is either going to fall in this time, or they're going to somehow manage to recoup. But also, another thing that I wanted to say, the Middle East fell when Iran fell. When the Shah fell, all this instability you have in the Middle East started after the Shah fell. Okay, from Taliban to Iraq, Syria, to all these things that we had in the region, and a lot of virtue signaling people around the world, and people like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, all these anti-Dave Smith, and all these people that think they know better than us. If you want peace and stability, then you want the Islamic Republic of Iran gone. You do not want the Islamic Republic of Iran to have a nuclear bomb. That's catastrophic, not just for the Middle East, but for the whole world. Because as you said, they have many transport links. They can, stop transport links from the Hormuz, and also they can fund the Houthis again and stop shipments going through the Red Sea. So, these people, they have made a massive miscalculation, because they don't simply understand the issue. They think, oh yeah, America is going to another war, Israel is going to another war, the Zionists are bad. But the crux of the matter is that the real devil here is the Islamic Republic, and then they have their tentacles in terms of Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah. And as I said, Netanyahu, and hopefully Trump soon, I mean, if this message reaches Mr. Trump, I hope you join forces with Netanyahu. Netanyahu is not stupid at all. He went to MIT, and he's a very smart guy. He's been in the military. He knows what he's doing. I don't think he's genocidal at all. And this is why I like him, because he's a real leader. He's willing to take the flank. He's willing to be the bad guy, but do the right thing. But so many people, they want to look like the good guy, but do the bad thing.
Yeah,
and that it was why I like Netanyahu.
Yeah, one other thing that I would like to touch on is actually the rhetoric of the current, Islamic Republic, the proclaimed Islamic Republic that's governing Iran.
Yeah,
this is a 200-year-old prophecy and 200-year-old plan that they've had in mind, and this has been breathing in Cleggery schools, particularly in Najaf, in Karbala, and in Qom in Iran, where they've been planning on creating this Islamic state where they got the power.
World government.
Exactly. Because their power as Cleggery and as Islamic Shia particularly has been deteriorating in governments in the Middle East. So they've been planning this for 200 years. And they were just writing, there were this evil soul, in my opinion, that they were waiting for the right body to possess.
Yeah.
And in the 1979 revolution of Iran, this was the best opportunity for them to possess this body. So they integrate themselves into Iran, and they started running this country. So what we should be afraid of right now, and what should be our main concern, is that this evil soul, after collapsing, after being kind of exorcised out of the body of Iranian, country, an Iranian nation, where this lost soul is going to go. And that's the main question. So for them, because if you're very close to their rhetoric, and if you're very close to their ideology is that we're going to create an Islamic state, and we're going to, that's what they're claiming, is that they're going to, create this Islamic state, and they're going to wait for the, return of Mahdi, their savior, their 12th Imam, or whatever their promised, future is for the people. And in the interim, they just want to suck all the resources, all the energy, all the power of people, and rule and be in power. And they don't care whether I mean, they put it into context. They don't care whether they're doing it in Iran, they're doing it in Syria, or they're doing it in Iraq. So I think the next thing we should be thinking about is that past collapse, where this lost soul is going to go, and just making sure that this soul is exorcised out of Iran, but in the same time fully destroyed. So it cannot have a long-term effect. They cannot go into another country and do the same thing. And that's I think is a very important to think about, because their ideology, which is a failed ideology, by the way, was they're going to have this government, they're going to be anti-West, they're going to be anti-Israel, and they're going to destroy the Western culture. And they're the ones who are in the brink of collapse at the moment. So I think we need to be wise, we need to be smart, we need to not fall for this social media victim mentality, where people are, oh, my heart is with Iran, oh, Iran is being bombed.
Jumping on the bandwagon, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Iran is not being bombed. It's this corrupt regime that's being weakened in order to facilitate people, to get to the streets, to decide their fate. And I think the diaspora, the Iranian diaspora outside Iran, could organize gatherings, demonstrations, similar to what they did in the Women Life Freedom Movement with Masa, send a strong message to the Iranians inside the country that they're supporting them, and the Iranians in the country do show the support for the foreign entities like US and Israel to keep doing what they're doing until this regime realizes that it no longer has the capacity to invade this country. It no longer has the capacity to be possessing this body and to get out of Iran, so that Iranians could be finally free.
Exactly, and all the things they accuse Israel of doing and being, such as being a genocidal state, is what they are. So it's projection at its finest. They are the ones that are genocidal towards Israel. They are the ones that want to establish the world.
They're genocidal towards their own people.
Yeah, they're genocidal towards their own people. And when they talk about how the Zionists and the Americans don't want to take over the world, but it's in their Islamic doctrine, it's all in their amendments in the government, that they have to conquer the world. It's in the Islamic Republic amendments that they have to conquer the world, they have to spread Islam, Shia Islam all over the world.
Export the revolution.
Export the revolution and make White House a, they used to call it like Imamzadeh in Farsi. I don't know what they call
Husseiniya, like a place of worship.
Husseiniya.
So they've been dreaming about turning White
House
into
so everything they accuse the Zionist regime of being are who they are.
I mean, it's a very nice point that you touched here as well about their vision of exporting the revolution, because we talked about Iran-Iraq war, and I'd like to go for a second back there, because initially this was the main concern of Saddam Hussein as well, because just right next to you, a Shia country has a revolution, they come into power, and they're like, okay, we need to export this revolution, and that's what basically caused the Iran-Iraq war. And what's really very different this time around, because I mean, these are the two major wars that Iran has seen in the past 50 years. The main key difference is that back in the day in the war, the people felt a sense of being very nationalistic and defending their, the country, the home country, the women. So they went to war, and even, they didn't mind to risk their lives to fight, not give an inch of Iranian soil to Iraq and to Saddam Hussein. But right now, in this war, nobody is making a move.
Nobody cares about
people are just keeping silent. People are just sitting in a corner, and they're watching, and they're watching, and they're watching, and they're enjoying the fact that Israel is hitting certain infrastructure, hitting certain areas of power and interest to the Islamic Republic, because people have realized that this is not a war to invade Iran, or this is not a war to attack Iranian resources. I mean, if Israel wanted to cause damage, they could have hit the refineries and petrochemicals, or the railways or the bridges. They're not doing that. They're doing military precision attacks. And I think on the other hand, the Iranians are testing their rocket program. They're launching missiles. They're doing this dangerous act of sending rockets through 5-6 other countries. People in Jordan are concerned. People over the skies of Iraq are concerned. People over the skies of Syria are concerned. People in Cyprus are concerned. You're walking, on the beach, and you're seeing, rockets fly in the sky. So this is a war where we have one side informing the people in advance, letting them know that these areas are going to be bombed. Please evacuate. I mean, imagine Russia, announced that they're going to hit London tomorrow. Would you stay in London? I mean, that's a genuine question. No, you just get the next flight or train to another city. So that's what Israel is doing is in Iran. They're like, we're heading these areas, even with precision. This district, this particular area in Tehran, evacuate. Whereas the Iranians are just blindly launching missiles, hoping to hit, military bases and whatnot. And whether or not how accurate their rocket program is, they're causing mayhem. They're hitting larger buildings, infrastructure. I would like to take this moment to send my condolences and sympathy to the people of Israel, the normal everyday citizens who are living in Tel Aviv or Haifa or different cities,
because
who are
Islamic
suffering
Republic
from,
is the one that indiscriminately bombs
yeah,
Israel.
exactly.
So,
Iranian people are in full support of Israeli nation, full support of Israeli people, and I think it's vice versa. People of Israel completely understand the narrative, and would just like to take this opportunity to show sympathy and empathy to the people who are suffering because of these attacks.
Yeah.
But this is a war that this is a conflict that had to come face to face. This was a bottleneck that needed to be resolved.
Yeah.
If it did not, it would have happened 10 times fold,
exactly.
worse down in the future. So this has to be taken care now.
You cannot kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
And if you want peace in the Middle East, then it's in everyone's interest to get rid of the Islamic Republic. And this is what some of the people in the West do not understand. Nobody wants another war in the Middle East. Nobody wants innocent civilians dying. People want freedom. They want prosperity. As I've said before, Iran is one of the biggest economies in the world. And if it's liberated, it's the biggest economic opportunity in the world. And we've got, mountain resorts where we can ski. We've got beaches. We've got islands. We've got 4 seasons. We have snow in the winter, sun. So we've got everything as a country. We've got oil, gas, precious metals, which is very, very important in today's world. So everyone wants peace. Everyone wants prosperity. No one wants innocent people to die. But sometimes you need to kill a cancerous cell. And the Islamic Republic is a cancerous cell. As long as they exist, we will live in instability, we will live in perpetual wars, because if they win, which I don't think they will continue terrorizing Israel, and by extension, they will continue terrorizing the world. So it's in everyone's interest that the Israelis succeed in this mission. They strike the nuclear bases, strike the military bases, kill the heads of IRGC, and hopefully Khamenei dismantle, and then we have a strong opposition that's able to take power hopefully soon, and hopefully we can help in whichever way we can.
Spot on. And again, another very important fact is for the people, that this is a message to people of Iran: do not let any other variation of this regime get into power, because they've already set their plan B, C, and D. They've already have people who put into house arrest some 20 years ago so that they could pull them out at some point and show it to people, claiming that they are with the people, but they're not. This regime has been so smart in planning their plan B, C, and D. Go for something that shows is the right decision for your country. Do not choose anything that's of a similar substance. Do not fall victim to the fact that
I don't think we will.
Maybe Artesh, the National Army, or the Sepal will do a coup and they will still run the country, and everything is going to be run on a different facade with a different mask. This regime and its all elements and all supportive elements needs to be gone, transformed, purged, cleansed, for a new government to take place. And I think we've got interesting opposition leaders overseas. The Prince Reza Pahlavi, His Royal Highness, who's been really guiding the narrative, not actively involved, but guiding the narrative through possible resources. And I think we will be given the opportunity within the next year or two, to have this transitional period where the future is set and elected. And I believe that the future looks bright for Iran. To anybody wondering what's going to happen past this regime, we're not going to have civil wars. We're not going to have internal conflicts. This regime is already weakened enough, and they'll be gone. It's just
fear mongering from the others. It's fear mongering from the Islamic Republic and from other people. They say, "Oh, if we go, then you're going to have a situation in Iraq or Syria," which is not true.
Yeah, we have 90 million population who will defend every inch of the country, who will defend all the resources of the country, and who will be actively pushing for their future. So the future looks bright, and I believe that we would be hearing very, very good news within the next day or two. I mean, my analysis is that US is going to get involved. There's going to be even larger events taking place, larger attacks. And I think this pendulum needs to swing. People in Iran, people outside Iran, just to spread the message of peace, prosperity, and a brighter future. And that's all you can do to help the people of Iran. Just before we close up, there's also another question that we had about someone, I think, in Switzerland, interested in learning. about Iranian, culture and history. I think the book written by Shah of Iran, I think, Answer to the History,
Yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
is a very good source to understand a little bit about the events of the revolution and what
Yeah,
happened.
I really recommend the
There
book.
is
It's
a
a great read.
there's a YouTube documentary, I think, Rick Stevens, about Iran, past, present, and future. So you could look that up to get a sense of how the people of Iran are, how friendly they are, what Iran looks like, and what's our culture. And I think SOAS University in London also has interesting events and resources. I'm not sure about Switzerland. If you would like to, contact, special groups like Iranians in Switzerland, or university groups where you could, hang out, attend events, and get an understanding of the Iranian people and their culture, you can do. But also SIS University in London also got great resources, great programs that you could even join online. I think that's all from my end. If you'd like to add something to wrap this up.
Basically, you spoke about the pendulum, and I believe that everything in history goes in circles. So I think, unfortunately, the Iranian people, because of what happened to us 1,400 years ago when the Arabs conquered us, we had this poison of Islamic extremism come to the country. And I think the Islamic Republic is the second coming of what happened. And I think the Islamic Republic, now looking back at it in hindsight, the Islamic Republic had to happen. For 46 years, the Iranian people had to suffer for them to stamp in history that we do not want a government like that anymore in our history. That had to happen to us.
Yeah, to come to realization,
exactly.
what they've lost and what they need to fight for to get back.
They say, we owed the Islamic regime. We had to go through this bad experience for us to mature, and I think it's a good thing that happened to us, because now once Iran is liberated, the Iranian people will be 10 steps ahead of everyone else, even the people in the West. So on that note, anything else you would like to add?
That's all. Thank you very much it was a great discussion today, and we hope to be hosting this in Tehran very soon.
Exactly. Thanks for coming.